Beatle people, back with another Beatles solo album review. Today we're going to be reviewing Paul McCartney's very first solo album, simply titled McCartney. McCartney was released April 17th, 1970. The funny thing is that Paul was actually asked not to release McCartney because Let It Be still hadn't been released at the time, and the Beatles' breakup really wasn't all that public. John Lennon, of course, famously left first. Well, not really left first, but really disbanded the group back in September of 1969. A press release that came out with the original promotional copies of McCartney came with this, this little self-done press conference where Peter Brown wrote all of the questions and Paul simply would just write an answer, so they would photocopy those, put those in all of the promotional releases, and that of course had the question, do you plan on recording with the Beatles in the future? And McCartney wrote no. And with that, of course, came the press that Paul McCartney had quit the Beatles. So he was the first one to publicly do it. But like I said, of course, John Lennon famously quit the band in September in 1969, but it was a big old secret. And then Let It Be came out a few weeks later in May of 1970. Every single instrument that you hear on this album is recorded by Paul McCartney himself, which is amazing. It was all recorded in his home in St. John's Wood, which is right up the street from Abbey Road Studios. All the mixes and stuff were done later in other professional recording studios, but all of this was basically just Paul at home recording and being creative. All of the album artwork was done by Paul's amazing wife, Linda. You have the Life is a Bowl of Cherries, and then all of the gatefold artwork are great home photos of the McCartney clan. And then, of course, famously, the back cover is Paul with Baby Mary tucked away in his jacket. I love that picture. So the album starts with the song Lovely Linda, which is funny because it's actually Paul just messing around, testing out his home recording equipment. And I think it's so sweet that they ended up leaving this on the mixed final album. It definitely gets me a little emotional because, of course, Linda not being here with us anymore. And I kind of relate to this song because as a musician myself, when you're being silly and you pick up your guitar and you'll make up a little song, and especially about your significant other, whether you're just goofing off in the kitchen or, I've done this before. And I love hearing the little boyish giggle at the end. And it makes you wonder, what's going on as Paul is recording this? Is Linda being silly, making funny faces? Is she literally putting flowers in her hair? We don't know. But I think it's really cool that they decided to leave that in the final album. The next track is That Would Be Something, and this is a really good example of probably one of the first times where Paul does his little repetitious songs that we all know and love. Now, I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. I really do like the song. It's one of those great McCartney tunes that gets stuck in your head, but he's gonna meet you in the morning rain, mama. Just over and over, he's gonna meet you in the falling rain. I also really love that he uses household items for the percussion in the back. You can totally tell that it's not just a regular drum kit, that he's probably banging on pots and pans or whatever he had lying around to get that sound. So that's something that I really love and appreciate about it. The next tune is called Valentine Day. Not Valentine's Day, Valentine Day. It's an instrumental. This usually isn't a song that I will listen to when I listen to McCartney, though it really doesn't make a difference because it's so short. I think this song isn't even a minute and a half long. It's just really Paul goofing off, having a good time, enjoying himself. He kind of has that artistic freedom. He doesn't have anybody else to answer to, You could tell he takes a lot of liberties with it. The next track is Every Night, probably one of my all-time favorite Paul McCartney songs ever. Definitely something I can personally relate to. I'm very much a homebody myself, and every night you don't want to go up, get out of your bed, and you just want to stay in and be with your other half. The melody is simply just beautiful, gets stuck in your head, even when there's no lyrics and it's just the ooze. And it's just that amazing McCartney magic that man can just write such great, beautiful melodies. It's a curse. No, it's a blessing for sure. The next track is Hot as Sun. Now for an instrumental, this is probably my favorite instrumental on, well, okay, second favorite instrumental on the album. Let me go back there. This is definitely one that you can see being used in it like a travel scene in a movie. It kind of has that quality where you can just pan on like cars and scenery and trees. I definitely see that when I hear this song. It's another instance where you don't necessarily need lyrics to have a catchy melody that's stuck in your head. Hot as Sun goes straight into the next track, which is called Glasses, which is literally Paul doing that thing where you can like wet your finger and play a rim of a glass, and he's just playing with glasses. But like I said, this is where he takes a lot of artistic liberties, and it's not even that these are like bad artistic liberties, that he's going like too crazy and off the walls. He's just being weird, messing with sounds, and he decided to leave them in the final mix of the album, so good for him. The next track is Junk, another favorite of mine. It shows what Paul is really focusing on in his life at the moment, and it always brings a little tear to my eye. It really is a song that just takes you back to basics. It makes you feel at home, you know, thinking of all the stuff that's around in the yard, and it doesn't, you know, it's just very sentimental. The next track is Man We Was Lonely, and it is the first time that you hear Linda on backing harmonies. Kind of reminds me of something that Johnny Cash and June Carter would have done. You could totally imagine Paul and Linda probably sharing a microphone and doing those harmonies together. There's a lot of fun slide guitar on this track, and it's definitely another McCartney tune that will get stuck in your head for days. Man, he's really good at that. So now we flip the record over to a song called Oh You. I always like the beginning guitar riff to this song and how he asks for more guitar, which is just really funny because, yet again, McCartney is playing every single instrument on this album. So it shows the cool, like, advancement of technology at that time where everyone was used to, 4-track and now you had 8-track. So you could, overdub and re-record and add more things. And that's how he, of course, did the entire album himself. So it's another example of Paul just loving this new technology, goofing off. The lyrics are kind of nonsensical, but that's okay because the music rocks. Yeah, he's just having fun, having a good old time, messing about in his home studio. The next track is Mama Miss America, another instrumental where Paul is really just goofing off, having fun. He's, like I said, he's really, really taking a lot of musical liberties here. The only complaint I really have about this track is how the drums are mic'd. It sounds very garage bandy. I wish the drums just sounded a little better on this one, but I guess it kind of gives it its home recorded charm. It's definitely not a song that I love. This is one of those moments where if it came on shuffle or something, I would probably press the button and skip it. But I feel like this is a song that I would have fun with if I was physically there jamming with Paul McCartney. Like, I would love to be in that moment and just rock out and jam and have it be silly and fun. I don't think necessarily that this was a good choice to really put in the final album, but I could see why Paul is having fun. The next track is Teddy Boy. Probably the first storytelling type song that McCartney did in his solo era. It's kind of very, Get Back, Maxwell Silverhammer, Rocky Raccoon-esque, a song that tells a story. This is the second time that you hear Linda on backing vocals doing harmonies with Paul. And this one is kind of really hard to put in a specific genre. Is it really folky? Is it country? But it also sounds very poppy. Teddy Boy is definitely one of those classic McCartney tunes that you just can't skip. The next track is Sing Along Junk, which of course is just junk, but without the words. I don't want to call it a karaoke version. I feel like it's more of an orchestration version of Junk, just instrumental. I was always curious as to why Paul decided to put both versions on the same album. Maybe he could have just released the one with the lyrics as a single and then, or vice versa, maybe he could have released the instrumental as a single and kept the one with the words on the regular album. But it is just too good to leave off, and I think, like, I get why McCartney wanted both on there. It's almost like Golden Slumbers Part 2. It's very lullaby-ish. It could, put a kid to sleep. And it also is just amazing when you listen to all the layers of instruments that Paul has done this all himself. He's probably being a little boastful. That's probably why he kept it on there. He's like, yeah, look at this. I did this all myself. The next track is the famous Maybe I'm Amazed. Probably the most successful track off the album. It's one of the most brilliant love songs ever written, at least in my opinion. It really is an amazing, amazing example of putting your heart and your feelings down in music. And I've always been really curious, like, what it was like for Paul to play this for Linda for the very first time. Could you imagine, like, hey, hon, I wrote this song, come check it out. And for it to be about you, like, if someone wrote a song for me like that, I think that's why they had a really, really long marriage. Paul kept just bashing out all these great love songs. This is another track that definitely puts me in my feelings because, of course, Linda not being with us. And every time I hear Paul play this in concert, even though his voice isn't so great these days, doesn't matter. All of the pictures that, they put up on the screen, or actually, it's the video of the McCartney photo shoot. You have Paul with Mary in his coat and the still picture turns into the video. I cry every single time Paul plays Maybe I'm Amazed in concert. Just the emotional thing with the pictures, and it gets me every time. It's one of the greatest modern day love songs ever. Also, if you play Maybe I'm Amazed backwards on your turntable, there's a great recipe for lentil soup. The next and final track is a song called, I apologize if I'm saying this wrong, Creen Acori. I have no idea. Another weird experimental instrumental for you. You can totally tell that Paul is just having a good old time on the drums on this one. And then he starts randomly adding animal noises. Then you have this weird little section where Paul and Linda start harmonizing. And then it goes into a bit of guitar. And then it just goes back to Paul banging on the drums. And then you start hearing really awkward, heavy breathing noises. Then turns into a guitar solo. It's very weird, very all over the place. I hate that this is the song that ends the album. Like, you go from a beautiful Maybe I'm Amazed to this weird ass stuff. I don't get it. This is definitely a song that could have been axed. I get it. Paul's having a good time banging on his drums and making weird, heavy breathing noises that, sound a bit like something else. Yeah, not about it. Never liked this one. Definitely once you hear Maybe I'm Amazed is over, cut it. So there you have it, guys. My review of Paul McCartney's first solo album, McCartney. I hope you've enjoyed it. And remember, I'm doing every single Beatles solo album, a review of every single one in the order in which it came out. So if you haven't watched my Ringo Sentimental Journey video, go back to that one, and then who knows when I'll get to do the next one. I'm surprised I've been able to bash a couple of these out already. The next coming weeks are going to be very busy for me, so I doubt I'll be able to do them. But next is Ringo's B Cups of Blues. B Cups. I have no idea how to pronounce that, I apologize. But that's coming up next, so keep an eye out for it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel for more awesome videos just like this one. And until next time, as always, peace and love. See ya.